20 years before the war, in the peaceful forests of Hastinapura, young warriors trained under the legendary master Drona. Drona placed a wooden bird high in a tree and called his students. Today's test would separate the focused from the distracted. Drona raised his hand. The test was simple but brutal. Shoot the bird's eye. But before releasing your arrow, tell me what you see. This wasn't about archery. This was about focus. About eliminating everything except the target. Have you ever been tested like this? When someone asks you to prove not what you know, but who you are, Yudhishthira stepped forward first, the eldest, the responsible one. He drew his bow and answered honestly, "I see the tree, master, the branches, the leaves, the bird, the sky beyond." He saw everything, which meant he saw nothing. This is how most of us live, isn't it? Seeing everything, processing everything. Distracted by the whole world, when we should be focused on the one thing that matters. Drona's hand dropped. "Lower your bow, you see too much." Yudhishthira's shoulders slumped, rejected. Not for lack of skill, but for lack of focus. And here's the brutal truth about life. Sometimes being good at everything means you're great at nothing. Sometimes seeing the whole picture means you miss the point entirely. Young Dushasana stepped forward, confident and eager to prove himself among the best. Dushasana's voice rang out, confident. "I see the bird, master, and the sky behind it. Better than Yudhishthira, better than the eldest prince. His brother Duryodhana would be proud." More focused, but still not enough. His jaw clenched as he waited for approval. Do you know that feeling? When you're close, but not quite there? Again, Drona's hand dropped. "Lower your bow. You still see too much." One by one, the students failed, not because they lacked skill, because they lacked the ability to eliminate everything except what mattered. Finally, young Arjuna stepped forward. Smaller than the others, but there was something different in his eyes, a focus that went beyond sight. Sometimes greatness doesn't announce itself with size or strength. It whispers through intensity, the quiet ones who watch everything, absorb everything, become everything. Drona's eyes locked on Arjuna, his best student, the one who made him believe teaching was sacred. The forest fell silent. "What do you see, Arjuna?" The question hung in the air, not just for the boy, but for all of them. For you, right now. What do you see when you aim at your goals? The distractions or the target? Arjuna's voice came out steady, calm, absolute. Only the I, master. 3 words. 3 words that would define him for the rest of his life. Not the bird, not the tree, not the world. Only the I. This is what focus looks like. This is what happens when you eliminate everything except the one thing that matters. Have you ever been that focused? When the whole world disappears except your purpose. Drona pushed, tested. Not the bird, not the tree, not the sky, not even me. Each question was a temptation, an invitation to let focus slip, to acknowledge the world, to be normal. But Arjuna's eyes never moved. This is what separates greatness from talent. Talent sees the goal, greatness sees nothing else. The other students watched, understanding something they couldn't name. Arjuna's answer came again. No breath wasted, no hesitation, no master, only the I. His voice didn't rise, didn't fall. It simply existed, like truth. The bowstring was taut. His muscles ready, but his mind? His mind was somewhere else. In that place athletes call the zone. That space where time stops, and there's only you and the target. Nothing else exists. The arrow flew, a perfect strike through the wooden bird's eye. The other students watched in silent awe. Drona's hand came down on Arjuna's shoulder, not as teacher to student, as warrior to warrior. This is focus. This is how a warrior must see. Learn from him. But here's what Drona didn't say. Here's what he couldn't say. that this same focus, this gift that made Arjuna the perfect student, would one day become his greatest curse. When you can only see the target, you can't see what the target might cost you. In Duryodhana's eyes, something sparked. Admiration mixed with determination. The seed of competition was planted. That night, while others slept, Arjuna found his master alone by the fire. Arjuna knelt respectfully. "Master, I have a question." Of course he did. Arjuna always had questions. While other students slept, dreaming of glory, Arjuna lay awake, thinking, questioning, trying to understand not just how to fight, but why. Do you know someone like this? That person who can't just accept what they're told, who needs to know why. That's both their gift and their burden. Drona smiled. A sad smile. The smile of a teacher who sees too much. Always you have questions, Arjuna. That is why you are my best student. Speak. But there was worry in his eyes. Because the best students are the ones who question. And the ones who question are the ones who suffer most. They can't just follow orders. They need to understand. And sometimes understanding makes everything harder. The question came out quiet. Serious. "Master, why must a warrior fight? Not how, not when, why?" This is the question that separates philosophers from soldiers. Soldiers don't ask why, they just do. But Arjuna couldn't just do. He needed the why. He needed purpose. And that need for purpose? That's what makes someone fully human. And fully vulnerable. Drona gave the answer he'd been taught. The answer every warrior teacher had given for centuries. It is your Dharma, Arjuna. Your duty by birth. A Kshatriya protects. And to protect, sometimes you must fight. It's a good answer. A complete answer. Thousands of warriors had lived and died believing it. But for Arjuna, it wasn't enough. Because Arjuna didn't just want to be told what to do. He wanted to understand why it was right. Then came the question that changed everything. The question that Drona had no answer for. The question that would haunt Arjuna for 20 years. But Master, if Dharma means righteousness, and war causes suffering, death, tears of mothers and wives, how can war ever be righteous? Feel that question land. Really feel it. This 20-year-old man just challenged the entire foundation of warrior culture. Not with arrogance. With genuine confusion. With a heart that couldn't reconcile violence with righteousness. Drona fell silent. This was not the question of a boy. This was the question that had haunted warriors for ages. Drona looked away. He had no answer. So he did what teachers do when they have no answer. He deflected. "You think too much, Arjuna. A warrior must act, not question." But Arjuna heard what Drona didn't say. "I don't know. I've never thought about it. I've just done what I was told." And that terrified Arjuna more than any answer could have. Because if his master didn't know, who did? But Arjuna didn't back down. His voice stayed respectful, but his mind was relentless. "But you taught us to think, Master. You taught us to see clearly. How can I see and not question what I see?" This is the paradox of great teaching. You teach someone to think clearly, and then they think so clearly they question everything you've taught them. Drona had created his own philosophical opponent, and deep down he was proud and terrified. Drona's hand came down on Arjuna's shoulder, heavy, final. His eyes saw through time. "One day, Arjuna, this question will paralyze you. On a real battlefield, when arrows fly and death is real. It wasn't a curse, it was a prophecy." Drona knew. Teachers always know. They see the seeds of the student's future crisis in every question they ask. And the best teachers can only watch it unfold, unable to prevent it, only able to witness it. Arjuna laughed. Actually laughed. The sound innocent and pure. "When I know my enemy is wrong, Master, I will fight without doubt. My arrows will fly true when Dharma is clear." He believed it. Every word. At 13, the world was simple: good versus evil, right versus wrong, clear lines, easy choices. He had no idea that life's hardest choices aren't between right and wrong. They're between right and right, or wrong and wrong. Then Drona asked the question that hung in the night air like a ghost. What if your enemy is your family, Arjuna? What if the ones you must kill are the ones you love? Silence. The fire crackled. The forest held its breath. That question, that impossible question. How do you answer that when you're 13 and the world still makes sense? How do you conceive of a reality so broken that love and duty become enemies? Arjuna's answer came fast. Too fast. That will never happen, Master. Never. The confidence of youth. The certainty of someone who hasn't lived long enough to know that life specializes in the impossible. That life delights in making you face exactly what you said you'd never face. Drona said nothing, just watched. Knowing, grieving, unable to save this boy from his future. The camera holds on his innocent face, a boy who cannot imagine the nightmare that awaits him. This is the cruelty of time. It lets you make promises when you're young and naive, then holds you to them when you're old and wise. The you who promises and the you who must keep the promise are two different people. Days later, on the final night at the ashram, the students gathered around the fire. Pandavas and Kauravas together. Brothers in training, not yet enemies. Enemies were once friends. War doesn't start with hate. It starts when love becomes complicated. Then came Duryodhana's voice from across the fire. Playful. Testing. Arjuna, cousin, what will you become, the greatest archer? Not malicious. Not yet. Just a challenge wrapped in curiosity. The kind of question that pushes you to declare your dreams out loud. And once you say them, you're trapped. The world holds you accountable. Arjuna didn't hesitate. His voice rang clear across the firelight. Yes, the greatest archer who ever lived. I will make Drona proud. I will make our family proud. And there it was. The first promise. The innocent commitment. Every successful person makes this promise at some point. I will be the greatest. I will make them proud. What they don't know yet is what it will cost, what they'll have to sacrifice, who they'll become in the pursuit. Duryodhana watched from across the fire, his royal ornaments catching the light. Admiration and ambition warred in his heart. He saw what he wanted to be. What he believed was his by right. In that moment, watching Arjuna make promises, a seed was planted. Not hate. Not yet. Just the burning awareness that some cousins shine brighter than others. But Arjuna wasn't done. He stood, hand on his heart, and made the promise that would destroy him. And I promise this, I will only fight for Dharma. Never for glory, never for revenge. Only when the cause is righteous. This was the trap. The beautiful, noble, philosophical trap. Because what happens when Dharma itself becomes unclear? When the righteous path splits into two equally valid directions. When your teacher, your grandfather, your uncle are on the wrong side of a righteous war, then this promise becomes the poison that paralyzes you. The students cheered. Arjuna was everything a warrior should be. Skilled, humble, righteous. The golden boy of Hastinapura. And this is how pressure builds. Not from enemies, but from admirers. Not from hate, but from love. When everyone believes you're perfect, you lose permission to be human. From the shadows, Drona watched his students. He knew what they did not. Promises made in peace break in war. This is the loneliest knowledge. To love someone and see their future tragedy. To watch them walk toward pain and be unable to stop them. Because wisdom can't be transferred. Only earned through suffering. 20 years later, the same face. But the innocence is gone. Have you ever looked at your younger self and not recognized them? That stranger who believed things you no longer believe. who made promises you can no longer keep, the distance between who you were and who you became. The warm colors of memory fade to the cold gray of Kurukshetra. The promise made by firelight now feels like chains. Your body knows before your mind admits it. That sinking feeling in your stomach when you realize you're trapped by your own integrity. When doing the right thing feels impossible. Arjuna sat in the chariot, bow in trembling hands. The memories were knives. Have you ever been haunted by your younger self? When who you promised to be feels impossibly far from who you've become. When your own past becomes your harshest judge. The words spilled out, desperate, confused. I promised to fight only for Dharma. But which Dharma, Krishna? My family stands on both sides. Drona, whom I loved, aims his bow at me. This is the moment. The collision of past promises with present reality. When what you said you'd do meets what life asks you to do. And they don't match. They can't both be true. And you realize that your certainty was built on scenarios that never came to pass. Krishna listened in silence. His eyes showed no judgment, only infinite patience. This is what true teachers do. They don't rush to answer. They don't shame the confusion. They create space for the question to breathe. Because sometimes the asking is more important than the answering. Arjuna's eyes looked through time, seeing both the boy he was and the man he became. I was so sure, Krishna. I thought I would know Dharma when I saw it. I thought my enemy would be clear. But I was a boy. I knew nothing. This is the hardest lesson, the one that breaks idealists. The realization that your principles, your promises, your certainties were built on incomplete understanding. That life is infinitely more complex than your 13-year-old self could imagine. That wisdom isn't about having answers, it's about holding questions. Krishna's voice came soft, eternal. Keep asking, Arjuna. The question itself is the path. You were the best student then, because you questioned. Be the best student now. Question everything. This is the teaching that will birth the Gita. The understanding that wisdom isn't the absence of questions. It's the courage to keep asking them, even when there's no easy answer. Especially when there's no easy answer. Because the question transforms you. The seeking makes you whole. The armies waited. The past and present collided. And in the silence, the Gita deepened. This is how transformation happens. Not in action, in the pause before action. In the unbearable tension between what was promised and what is required. In the space where certainty dies and wisdom is born. To be a student is to question. To be wise is to never stop questioning. And Arjuna, greatest of archers, was about to become the greatest of students. The teaching continues. Because it always continues. Your questions don't end. They evolve, they deepen, they become the path itself. And that's not a problem to solve. That's life to live.